Still, to get any kind of quantity, we're talking about $10 gold pieces here about 4 weeks ago. And the market just took a little bit of an uptick, and I became 5,000 coins short in the marketplace just because I couldn't stop the orders that fast. They just sell out, And so then I'm out there trying to make up that difference, trying to buy it, and typically buying it at a higher price than I'm actually even sold it at. So, that's what the market is like right now. But what I do have and what I recommend, and they're down a couple of bucks too, so you get to save a little bit of money, are those francs at 205 and the British sovereigns at 254. Now, there are some other things that have small quantity in, but the problem is if I start mentioning that kind of stuff on the air, they get all sold out. And, so if you're looking for eagles, if you're looking for maple leafs, if you want $20 gold pieces, if you're interested in some $10 gold pieces, fives, just ask the salespeople that you say, hey, look, I've heard you on the Power Hour. I'm interested in something other than the British sovereigns or eagles. I want pre-1933 U.S. gold or whatever it is, just ask for it. But right now at this time, I think people need to have silver, and I think those Walking Liberty halves at $8.40 or $168 a roll is the way to go.
Okay, that's $168 for a roll, and there's how many in the roll? Is that 50?
20 coins a roll.
20. What am I saying? Yeah, of course, 20. Okay, now the $205 franc. Now is that a fifth ounce?
Yeah, it's fifth of an ounce of gold, and the British sovereign is a quarter-ounce gold piece at $254. Both of those are a great buy. And the thing about it is, Dave, is these, I was looking at them just the other day, and most of them are 1800s. So they are very old coins that were issued well back, either early 1900s or late 1800s, and it's small fractional gold pieces that you can get in your hands and you can use as money no matter where you are. They're recognizable in the United States. They're recognizable, obviously, in Europe. You can go down to Africa, India. It doesn't matter where you go. The coins are valuable, and we're trying to compare it to the paper dollar right now, and we all know what's going on economically.
Good luck.
The paper dollar is doomed. We have a constant barrage of new ideas coming out as to how we can get the United States back on its feet by issuing more credit and debt. And that's just going to drive the value of the currency right through the floor.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Now, of course, a lot of folks, especially people like Peter Schiff or Jim, I can't remember his name now. The senior moment. I always have a hard time with that. But they're all talking now about hyperinflation. Jim Rogers, that's what I was thinking of. They're all talking about getting out of the dollar, especially Jim Rogers. He's been saying that for 6 months, and he's one of the most respected financial gurus on the planet. Now, they're all getting out of the U.S. dollar, of course, which is going to give the euro more strength, et cetera, and they're having some problems there, too. But let me ask you, how soon do you think it's going to be before we start seeing that hyperinflation thing kick in?
Well, it's going to be this. I mean, the United States has to take on an awful lot more debt publicly because I don't think there's enough creditworthy borrowers in the private sector that are willing to take on the debt in order to get money into supply. So every time you see the government stepping up and taking on more debt, and I don't know where Bob's at with this. He may have an agreement or disagreement, but I think that's where the hyperinflation is going to come because the government's going to bail out everything. And that just means, they're the lender of last resorts. In order for the Federal Reserve System to get cash into the system, they have to do it on a loan basis. And right now they're printing money like crazy, but they're having trouble getting people to borrow it. And so then if you put the liability onto the shoulders of the government, the government will step in and they'll bail out all these financial institutions like they have now the auto manufacturers. And don't forget the deposits at the bank. We just went from $100,000 guaranteed in deposits now to $250,000. The liquidity has to come into the marketplace somewhere. Right now, we have this draw pull into we're going into a deflationary depression, but the United States government's just trying to replace all that loss of debt and credit from the people that are defaulting on debt by just issuing new programs and new bailouts. And you can just hear Barack Obama. It's a whole new program. It's hope and change, man. It's coming, and it's coming in the form of hyperinflation. And these guys are right. I don't know. Will we get to the Weimar Republic? I don't know. We certainly could get to Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico.
Well, yeah. We see what's going on over there. What are they doing now? They got a $2 billion bill now, or $2 million bill in Zimbabwe. I think it's crazy.
Well, see, that's what happens, Dave. When enough institutions fail and the government steps in to bail these things out, the printing press is on full speed ahead. That's where you get that hyperinflation from.
Yeah.
And whether if we have hyperinflation or whether if we have a complete depression and all the institutions which we used to rely upon just fail, it isn't going to matter either way. Everybody who has savings, whether if it's in a bank or whether if it's sitting in some investment firm somewhere, it's going to be wiped out. Wiped out through inflation or wiped out through deflation. It doesn't matter. Gold and silver. See, we had deflation back in the 1930s, but yet gold was able to increase 40% while labor was dropping down to about 10 cents on the dollar. Land prices were going through the floor. The stock market was just failing, and yet we had this huge deflation, and gold went up 40%. That's almost a larger increase than what you would consider if we had hyperinflation. I mean, hyperinflation will just throw the price of gold, it'll skyrocket and into oblivion. I mean, eventually it's an infinitive number because the dollar becomes worthless. And so, at this particular time, you can look at it from either angle. And if you have money, and I can understand some people don't, but if you do, you should be setting aside gold and silver coins. And probably more importantly at this point in time, if you don't have anything at all, that you have silver, because silver is smaller, fractional pieces of units of measurement of wealth that you can use, to buy the goods and services you need.
Exactly. I mean, you're going to be in big trouble if you're sitting there with a half-ounce gold coin that, as gold goes up, it's worth $7,000 or $8,000 for a half ounce, and you want to go buy some food. You're not going to be. Nobody's going to be able to make change. So silver is going to be really important. So let's go back. We have $8.40 for a half ounce Walking Liberty, or you can get a roll of 20 for $168. The fifth ounce Frank is up right now for $205, and the quarter ounce British Sovereign for $254. Get it while you can, folks. Call Midas at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237. Ted, thank you again for joining us, and as always, keep going, keep the faith.
Hey, we'll keep working on it, that's for sure.
Ted Anderson from Midas Resources. Thanks for joining us, Ted. Back we go now to Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster. Would you like to embellish or emphasize anything that he was just saying? This issue about hyperinflation, the silver or the gold versus the dollar. Anything that you wanted to add to some of the things he was mentioning there?
One of the things I'd like to say here is that I just spent the last 3 hours this morning writing about exactly what Ted was talking about. And for those of you who would like to get a free introductory copy of the Forecaster, that'll be in Wednesday's issue. And it's about 4 or 5, 6 pages on it. And I go over default, devaluation, inflation, hyperinflation. I think what the Fed and the U.S. Treasury are doing and have been doing for the past several months in the theater of lending money, mostly to financial institutions, is going to come home to roost through a monetization process probably in March or April. And that answers your earlier question, is how quickly or when do you think things are going to get, let's say, worse? And that's when they'll begin again. Inflation slid back from about 13 5/8% to about 11% over the past several months as deleveraging took place among hedge funds and others, and that brought down the price of the stocks and the commodities and even gold and silver, although gold lost the very least of all the mediums of investment. But I think we're entering into a time here when, in March and April, when visible signs are going to appear again that inflation is moving back up from 11%. And we still have all the major banks in the world, central banks, creating money and credit at a rate still of 14%. In fact, right now in England, which is a major country financially, it's 16.2%. And in the Eurozone, it's around 9%. And so they continue to do that as well as lend money that they don't have, creating out of thin air. Mm-hmm. And I secretly believe that, I believe that the U.S. Treasury is secretly printing Treasury bills, which they are giving to the Fed to use as collateral on loans. and that's immediately monetized, which means it gets into the system, and it also means that it's very quickly inflationary. So following that trail, we're going to see inflation again higher fairly soon, within 3 months, 4 months.
Well, yeah, I think that also when you factor in, we're hearing about all of these different companies that are closing down or cutting jobs, cutting way back. I mean, Alcoa cut, 13,000 positions last week or something like that. We hear the unemployment rate now is they are sort of dancing around the idea of 10%, but they're not factoring in the people that have fallen off the dole roll. The unemployment benefits, et cetera, and they just can't seem to get back into the workforce because there aren't any jobs. They're losing jobs here. Well,
so, I was giving you those figures earlier, and let me explain quickly what they do. You get 7.2%, which they publicize.